feet
Oh, I see.
right here in that street right there.
So normally the code reads so that this would be at 50 feet would require a landscape buffer.
So why didn't the board come up with that? Is there a reason?
I can't answer that question. That's HPV. They make the recommendations on these. But there is a requirement that there is a landscape pocket. They may have avoided it because of the fact that there's a gate there. I don't know the width of the gate. But we can bring it back to him and we can ask that the pocket be put in depending the size of the gate.
Well, I don't know, after we've already approved as is, can we come back? Unless we take and withdraw our approval. And add that question in there.
How does that work?
If our code requires, we can still require you to go approve.
That's what I was going to say. We can oversee it or something. We are, I mean, if they've missed it. So it's something that we can, yeah.
Okay. Probably have to take a look at that now.
Yeah, and we can bring that when it comes to permitting. And I think he just submitted for this, that we can make sure that the landscape pocket goes in. And it will determine this right here. If the overall is 75 feet and he's got it broken off here, it may not work.
Right.
So I'll have to get with him. I'll
I
verify.
can only go by the way he's got it here with fiction. The end here is the marker and this is the marker 75.
Yeah,
But
because,
he made his error because he didn't go all the way down, extend his line all the way down. I
Yeah,
do
see-
it based on engineer drawings and stuff.
and normally this is done more so when this abuts, if the fence was coming along the line here on Michigan,
Yeah, along the property.
along the property line, then they would kick in a 50-foot, right, you know, put in that landscape pocket
But
at 50 feet.
Yeah, I know, but
this is
I don't
coming
think our
across.
ordinance says anything about the setback. If there's a large setback, that eliminates that requirement. So we'd have to take a look at it and see.
Yeah, and I don't believe that there's anything that specifies where it's placed. So that may be an issue, because like I said, most of the ones that we've done before, unless it was a, not a PVC fence, but a powder-coated black, and you could see through it, then they could landscape on the inside. We wouldn't always require it. But on this right here, like I said, normally they would be more adamant to require it if it's running along the roadside or if it's kicked in off the edge.
I think this presentation is a solid fence.
Yeah, because he already has an existing fence. You can see the existing fence here. So now they just want to extend it out.
Well, that's something we have to take a look at.
Okay.
Thank you, Clark.
Thank you.
Debbie Ritchie, 310 West Michigan. One more thing on landscape pockets. I know this sounds absurd, but it's, you know, there's a guideline that it has to have that landscape pocket. There are several homes that have the fences with the landscape pockets, and there's nothing in that landscape pocket. No tree, nothing planted. So I don't know if anything can be done about that, or if it needs to be clear that you do need to plant whatever, a tree or whatever in that landscape pocket, but it doesn't do a whole lot of good to have that if nothing's planted.
What may have happened is originally they had something there and weather or whatever killed it and they have to replace it. Somebody can write up a complaint about it, goes to the city and the city can.
Some of them are, I know of one in particular that's a new house and it never had anything, but anyway, I'm not going to complain on neighbors, but it's just, there's no need in doing the landscape pocket if we're not going to put any landscape in it. I'd rather it not be there. But
do we need to just give direction to staff to look into that, or is that just going to happen naturally, or?
I think it's clear.
Okay.
All right.
Getting down to the reports, city administrator, city attorney, and the police. So in that order.
Yeah, I'm going to take the first one. That was just passed. I've got the authority because the purchasing is under 10,000, but I just wanted to bring it to you all that I'm going to authorize $4,750 to be spent on City Hall for rodent trapping and treatment. We've had rodent activity in every one of the workers' desks. And I spent a day opening up several drawers and finding nests with multiple babies and a mother. So we know there's somewhere, there's got to be a father somewhere in the building. And who knows what else. So we've got 19,000 budgeted for buildings in general. So I'm going to authorize tomorrow with Wildlife Extractions, which is a company that we use to care of bats and other issues that we have with animals, to use City Hall. But in that discussion, I think at some point the commission is going to make a motion to either reject the bids that we got, because those bids have been sitting for months, and we're getting calls and emails from the companies, and I have nothing to tell them.
Bids for the mold
Yeah,
remediation.
so the best thing then, if we're not doing anything, is for you guys to make a motion and reject it, because I mean, the further we go on, they're gonna be invalid anyway, because they say on them their prices are only good for so long, and people aren't gonna hold them open forever from now into the third or fourth month.
Can you refresh me on why we postponed it so far?
You all have to make a decision on picking a vendor and
Yeah,
go
but there's
forward.
a reason why we didn't.
Well, because you don't have $1.2 million.
Well,
I think there's also discussion about breaking it up at one
Yeah.
point.
Oh, yeah.
And
Don't
then
think
they
anybody
came
was-
back, they wouldn't break it
Well,
up.
Right. That was the
Because
deal.
they don't even know, those were all done based on them doing a preliminary. So they get in and start opening it up, those prices could even go up.
So that was the idea, is that we wanted to look back and see if we could have them parcel out a piece, but their overall package would be affected, and they couldn't just take a quarter of it and then get the same price. So that was what we held up on. So now, as we stand, we have
I got another question on the budgeting side. We didn't put any money in the budget for that yet, did we? So that leaves a possibility of the balance of the ARPA funds being used to get it started.
ARPA, you have 800,000.
So that gets started with about 50% of it.
Was there a part on windows? Because that was the big issue, is that
But that's in that $1.2 million.
that's the windows. And that
No,
was-
that's the whole project, the windows. and
But I think
that.
that was one of the things brought up, is could we start with the windows? That was a question that brought it up into separating it, but either way, it's not gonna.
The only problem with starting with the windows is if you do the walls, it's going to affect the frames of the windows, and
Yeah.
so it'd be better to start with the interior.
And if there's nothing wrong with the room, because Lynn and I had a conversation last Friday, and that bleacher will take care of that. So if that's the case, then we should be having our meetings back upstairs and not having them afraid to have you all in public in a building that we're in 5 days a week.
But also, one, realized that the podium, the air conditioning, because we keep the air conditioners on, and the air conditioning around it is starting to now chip and peel. So now you have debris that's falling from the ceiling, and that is another issue, which is one of the things that in the bids, there were bids that how far they were going to go into determine how far the mold went. We're going to go a little bit or a lot, but the bottom line is that there is a depth that has to be addressed because the building is deteriorating from the mold. And just to see, like I said, the podium has got plaster up where we sit. There's plaster falling from over the seating, and that's those things right there. That's a big deal.
Yeah, they're black too. They're black mold.
Yeah.
So we gotta come to some kind of decision, like, are we going to go with the bids, cancel them all out, move the employees down to, I don't know, CAC, something, figure something out.
Right.
Now, because of this has been dragging on, Jim's been here how long now?
You?
Started when it's been going on since you.
Okay.
Well, it's actually been going on for a
Well,
while.
I'm talking about this,
But I'm just
this
saying.
new iteration of me.
Yeah, so.
So we have to,
On the bid, what was the most expensive item in repairs?
I got off the top, I don't have this in front of me, so I can't.
But they're not willing to do that anyways. They're not willing to bring
No, I
it.
was just wondering what was the most expensive.
Probably the windows.
well, actually, it was the depth that the contractor was gonna go in search of the mold.
For some reason, I think the windows were wrong.
If they went a certain distance, it would be and if we had a different one, we had a different contractor that was gonna go further. And then the fact that you have to replace the construction, reconstruction, whatever they have to deteriorate, tear down to get into that.
Mayor, that could affect any one of the three, because it's like getting a roof. They'll give you a price, but when they come out and start doing the roof, they find you've got wood damage or whatever, then your cost goes up. So all of them are saying, we think it's this, but we don't know until we get in there and open it up. How extensive is it?
Usually when they go into an area like that, they'll put it in, they'll find out where the mold is, and it's, let's say it's a mold to this frame right here, and they go to the next, they go to the frame after the next, because this one is maybe compromised, and then they go to the next one just to ensure that they're outside of the range so they can clean up the mold area. So that's gonna make the determination too.
Well,
Kiss them off.
I don't know, if you're looking at moving to the CAC, that's really a mess down there, which appears that it's gonna cost a lot of money to make repairs and set that, become a new city hall.
Rick, didn't you guys go through and figure out a wall, a temporary wall pattern or something, CAC for opening offices?
We actually had Angelo, a local contractor, go in there, and he drew out a schematic of everything to make it work. Actually, Jim's got it right there. No cost or anything on it yet, but this would convert the CAC into City Hall, including the chambers.
You have a price?
No, we brought you to see, we can get a price, he's working on it, but we just want to see what's on the internet. The man's gonna put time into it. I mean, if you're interested in looking at it, I'm sure he's working on that now, but he did go through with us. We also mentioned going to the shuffleboard court and renovating it and making it a permanent museum and moving the museum in there permanently. Because I really feel that's the best thing you should do with that. Take the shuffleboard off the front, convert that thing into a museum and make it a permanent museum of Lake Helen. I mean, that's my opinion. That way they have a home and everything goes right there.
You see what the 2 bedrooms are for?
I think those are the back.
That's because he's a residential contractor on that part there. He's talking about.
yeah, that idea about the museum, that I think we had spoken to the ladies, and it was also an idea that if it was open on the Saturdays when we had the market in the park, we
Yeah.
could get more exposure.
Absolutely.
People can come in and.
Put it to use, it just sits there again, it's sitting there. It would be a great place, it's big enough to house everything they need, and the people would see it all the time, because they're coming in there for the market in the park and everything, you have all that room there for them, I mean, it would be great.
The other thing is the septic tank to tie into it, because the bathroom's not working.
I think we can get away with a drain field repair.
Drains everything.
I think so. I'm not 100% sure. I'll get the septic tank company out there, but the tank's in good shape. I think it just needs a drain field repair.
Could that be tied into the one that's underneath the dog park?
No, there's a separate one there.
We did have one
No, we have one out back there. It just needs a drain field. But
What will you do with
I think if you're
that?
going to spend your money, I think you can accomplish this with your money. And then figure out what you're gonna do at City Hall. Because City Hall, as far as upstairs, if I was to bid that out, I'd bid out to gut it and redo it, you're gonna get a better bid. You can't just go in there piecemeal, you tell me you want the whole thing gutted to the walls, and you wanna rebuild it back the way it is. But if you don't do the windows have already fell apart. We've already got some right now that have no glass in them, there's nothing left in the windows. But if you don't seal it up, you're wasting your money. But I would gut it, if you're gonna rebid it, gut it, upstairs gut it, and rebuild it back the way it was. But I would probably put my money more here first, and
What about
then
all
wait
the
for
equipment
grants.
and everything that's at the CAC? Will the city auction everything off?
Some of that stuff, though, that you have some equipment from the restaurant, it's really no, I don't think there's any value there. I think it just needs to go to the dumpster and go on out and be done.
And I think the stoves were the old stoves that came from the American Legion.
Yeah.
Replaced
They were
ours.
used when they went
When
over.
the ladies did the,
I know the refrigeration system are no good, they don't even work anymore.
All of that stuff was used.
Yeah, all of us usually got it, so there's no value there of it, other than surplus it out and get rid of it.
I'll take
And
the
then-
ice machine.
I don't know, you know, that machine or did it ever work when you got
It
back?
just never worked there when we had it.
So, I mean, you can have it checked out,
You can scrap it.
but
How about
All
some
that-
of the
all
keys
that
and
can be
really, but
Yeah.
All that restaurant equipment, we had, Vinny from Gas Pullman Services come in there to assist us back in Hurricane Irma to have a little spaghetti dinner for the people that were out of power. And he was not very willing to, help us make it work because it was so unsafe, you know. He was not putting his name on nothing, but he did get it going for us. But all that equipment in there is totally outdated, totally unsafe, pretty much garbage, scrap rate is in there.
So probably about $75.
Think about it. Time flies.
I mean, you guys have decisions, but that's my recommendation, and that's why we went and had a look at that, to get you moved in somewhere. You know, make it permanent for now, or maybe semi-permanent, I don't know what you're gonna do, then you can figure out what you're gonna do with the city hall now.
it's beyond the point of, the help with every day. And so we're putting our employees in a unsafe environment. That's another problem down the road. So if this is a short, quick fix for the moment to get us out of the building and then figure out what we're gonna do with the building.
Well, and it's not gonna hurt to put money into the CAC because otherwise that building's gonna fall to shit too, so.
Right.
You're gonna be in the same spot again.
Exactly.
And it's
Same exact
the
spot.
it's the newest building that should be safe within, it should be within range of safety, so I don't think it's out of that, out of this order. But that's for another day, right? We have to make a,
We need to make a decision. I'll say we make a decision tonight.
we're gonna do it tonight.
Yeah.
I don't know if we should pick this can down the road any more than we already have. We've talked about it for quite some time, and it's not worth the risk to our employees. This is not a problem that's going away either, so we need to find a solution.
Scott, can we do that in this form?
Legally, yeah, you're allowed to add anything you want to the agenda. You have the legal authority to do it. That is obviously a very big decision. It obviously, and you need to make it soon, but you might want to have it advertised on the agenda so the public can have an opportunity to comment on it, because, you know, you're talking about relocating City Hall, and then, you know, a range of possibilities as to what do you do in the old City Hall.
Well, can we at least make a motion to move forward to get
That's what I was
prices?
saying, you
on
could
it?
make a motion to get prices and,
Yeah.
so that would give us some kind of direction so we can get something.
But the other
You wanna know what
thing,
it's gonna cost.
the other thing you gotta look at also is the museum has a section in there, plus they have a section in City Hall, they're gonna have to move. Talking about using the shuffleboard building for the museum, that's gotta be fixed before they move out of these two things. And this has gotta be fixed before City Hall can move out of City Hall. So that's, which one are we gonna start with?
Well,
We need to
worst
start
case
on the-
scenario, we
We
can.
need to start on the shuffleboard and work to get it set up so that the museum can fit into there.
No,
I can get,
I would
work
say-
on getting prices for both, so you can see what's gonna cost for
Well, I was
both.
gonna say also,
And
worst
then go
case
from there.
scenario, we could get one of those storage things and move some stuff into that until we can get, I mean, but we gotta continue moving. We can't just say, okay, we're gonna stick it in here and leave it till hell freezes over. We have to do this, so.
With the
Yeah, we
idea
could
that-
I would say get bids on both of them.
That's what I was, I mean, that'd be the logical thing, so you know,
Well, yeah, you
get some kind of estimates, you know what it's gonna cost, then you go out for bid, once you decide, yes, we wanna do this, it's feasible, or no, we can't do that, I mean, that's what I would.
Jim, is that true?
For that,
Yeah.
you guys want to make a motion to?
I would-
Reject the bids,
Oh, to reject the
so we
bids.
can close that out, and there's something that.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, so they're gonna redo their
Yeah.
bids later.
Make a motion that we reject bids that were proposed to us for remediation of the problem.
I second it.
Second, motion, any questions on this?
I'm only doing this, I'm only doing that because we're gonna be moving forward on this.
Okay, comment?
You know, if it's more of a comment or a question, but our public records, I think, should be one of our biggest priorities on getting those records out cleaned and into some type of storage facility before it gets any worse.
Yeah, those public records room is a disaster.
Yes.
Nobody will even go
It
in
has been
there.
a disaster.
We had
Right.
actually talked about putting anything on computer, that was another suggestion.
Say that again?
Where I said, we already had also spoke about moving them into, electronic files.
Yeah, but that's gonna take some time. You
Yeah.
still wanna have those paper files protected.
Well,
Yeah.
the paper files have to have, there's a 7-year requirement to keep paper, isn't it?
And everything that you destroy,
Because some
Retention.
files
For different things, some of them
Yeah.
are much longer, and some are less.
and you have to have a log for everything you destroy. We are so in violation with that records room, it's not even funny.
It's like employee records, you gotta keep them like 20 years after they're gone.
Kelly, finish?
We have a lot of maps and plats and all that stuff, and those are all historic documents that haven't been digitized. I do know that certain documents, like Jim said, have different time frames, but the majority of those files that are in there are the old files, the old records, the things that have been in a tangible record for many, many years and are fragile, brittle. So those are things that are only getting more, the historic records are only getting more and more damaged.
Well, also with that is since we're talking about mold, and that those items that may also collect mold, although they might be records, but again, we get into way out in the woods, because
I think we got a bid, about 80,000? 80,000? to convert it.
Oh, shoot, go for that. That ain't nothing. That ain't bad.
okay, so there's a company that can do that for us, obviously. Okay.
Not the, oh, that was for the records? Oh, I think we're talking about this thing.
I mean, but you've already spoken to somebody that,
Well, we are in violation, we could be in trouble for that records room.
Now, that's just based on that, if somebody comes out and sees what they have to work in, what they do.
That's what I said. They will get that.
That's just what.
Point of order, Mayor, discussing rejecting the bid currently, and
Yes,
then
ma'am.
maybe this discussion would be best out at a special meeting.
oh, that's such
We're in trouble.
All right, so let's continue with the motion. The motion was to reject the bid or to?
Rejected.
Rejected this.
Okay, are we on a motion and a second yet? Okay, wait for the audience. Fine. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Ayes have it, so move. Next level,
Now, we need to make a motion to move forward with this.
with the,
I did make a motion that we move forward with getting pricing on this and the shuffleboard.
Second.
motion moved to move forward with the shuffleboard.
And this, and the CAC.
Okay, motion moved to second.
Heather. they fought each other.
That is for getting bids to do that, right?
Yes,
So, I think it was just to get pricing from the individual that I
yes,
think he was talking
We
to.
want to get a cost estimate.
Cost estimate.
yes.
Bring it back to you. We know it's not going to be the final, but get a cost estimate so you know where your money's going to lay there on it.
I thought Jim said 80,000, I was all for it.
All right, so we have a motion, any comments? Can I get a bid? A bid. Can I get a vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So none, those opposed. Tim, you still got the floor.
No, next one is Rick's mower. This is in the current budget. Rick, I think this came in a little bit lower than what the budget.
Yeah, we originally budgeted 35,000 for it, and it come in at the 27 something. Now, the price is gonna increase if we don't do it now, it's gonna increase next month. So I wanted to get it in here before the price increase went up. This is gonna replace one of the aging mowers, one of the oldest ones we have, the John Deere. It's starting to go out, we're gonna use it till it no longer exists, but this is also a 104-inch cut. One of our biggest, I guess, headaches we have and hassles is during the summer, the four biggest properties we have, the equestrian, Blake Park, City Hall, a little bit there, but and the ball field and the cemetery, we have to cut weekly. I mean, weekly. If you let them go more than a week, we let them go like 2 weeks, I had to have a big machine come out, we borrowed to cut them. So especially the equestrian center. So this machine's a 104-inch cut, most we have is 72, so it's adding on about, 30-some inches of cut. And it'll be a big enhancement to what we do to help speed up things, to help us get through that and cut it. And it was budgeted, and it is coming in under.
Thank you for finding this under.
And no matter what else is falling apart in town, we look good from the outside.
Are we prepared for a motion?
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the mower.
I need a second.
Second.
Motion moving second. Any comments
I just made one.
from the audience? Yes, you have a.
Yeah, I think this is just very minor, but we're using, is it CB?
No, this wasn't out of that.
No,
You talking about ARPA funds?
No, we're looking at a mower,
Correct.
we've got the tree cutters, and I noticed in our billing that we bought 2 blowers, but yet the tree cutters work on top of the police.
Oh, no, they did that as a favor, because our machine can't get up there, we can't get up there and blow it off. They did that in Hopkins Hall for us. We have our own blowers that blow off sidewalks, things like that, no. They actually donated doing that for us, to get all the debris off.
So
Yeah,
that was it.
there was no charge for any of that was done. But there's so many leaves up there, we had to get them off.
And I also noticed that whatever that boom is that you get over this time, that we get it from
We usually rent it for 2 to 3 months on the average, depending on when we do the tree. Right now, we're running into a problem, we gotta get the tree down, but we're in the meters are at the end of the meters, and my guys are out, myself, trying to find the last 50, 60 meters that have been lost, from dirt being over them to get them done. So we've been steadily on that, I've informed Jim of that too. As soon as we get that down, we're gonna remove that. Now, the lift company that we rent from, they work with us. He's already sent me an email, they'll work with us on the rental because of that, to help us out.
So then the tree cutting company is not going to be cutting the trees, you guys will be.
Removing the lights, the decorations.
Oh, they
That's
haven't-
all that's for.
Yeah.
Removing decorations and put them on the tree.
So they haven't been removed yet?
No, that's the last thing we have left, everything else is done.
Oh, actually. I was just wondering because I
That's
saw
it.
it.
And a motion? Vote. All in favor? Aye. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Chief.
All right, you guys have in your packet 2 applications. These are, I lost 2 officers, one in October, one in November, the other year. We started advertising in October, that ended in November. We did not have a lot of applications, but I narrowed them down to 4. We did 4 interviews, and out of those 4 interviews, I selected 3 that would have been a good fit for our department. We only have 2 positions. So Lorena Minetti is how you pronounce her name. She was my top pick. She's highly skilled. She's got a lot of certifications. There's not a lot of schooling we have to send her to. We don't have to send her to any school. As a matter of fact, she's already with our certified. She's already a field training officer. She worked in Daytona for several years and left for personal reasons.
And she can search female criminals.
What's that?
She can search for female criminals.
And it brings some diversity to our agency. So I'm excited to have her on. My second pick was Joshua Caracola. He just called me a couple hours before the meeting and told me that him and his wife decided to move out of state, so he turned the job down. So Tyler Lakin, you do not have any information on him. I have not done a background on him yet. But just interviewing him, he's got previous experience in law enforcement, and I would recommend him take that second position, pending the outcome of his background. Background's already been done on Rainer Minetti.
Lorena, the application said she wanted part-time, because,
No, she wants full-time.
okay, just the paperwork I had said part-time.
Yeah, you're correct, the box, part-time, the long box.
A lot of people
But
look
it
at
said
the
20
tabs.
hours too.
We usually hire out of our reserve pool.
So I'm confused.
Yeah, we don't have any part-time. It's a police
But
department.
what Liz pointed out, is, yeah, they did mark part-time, and they were 24 hours on that.
No, she wants full-time.
I think why she wants part-time, because she put in for a reserve officer.
Yeah, there's a lot, we hire a lot of our officers out of our reserve
Oh,
pool.
actually, I see that, yeah, this goes back to May 8th, 2024.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes, yes. So yes, she definitely wants part-time. But we usually hire out of our reserve pool, and but we can have any reserves in all position. We have to go out and advertise.
What about the salary?
21 an hour.
Is that higher than any of the other officers?
No,
Is that lower?
it's lower than all the other officers, correct? Yeah, that's our starting bid.
Anyone else?
I make a motion to hire the 2 officers for the police department.
Okay.
I thought this was the one.
Well, pending his background check, that's the second one.
Pending all
Three,
requirements.
one withdrew and it's down to 2.
Yeah.
Is that second?
Is that part of the motion? Pending the outcome?
All of the job applications are pending all the job application requirements.
Okay, second.
All right. Motion move. Second.
Any
All in
comment
favor?
from, any comment from?
Comments from the audience? Wait a minute.
I just have a
Yes,
question.
step up.
I don't have an issue with the hire, but I only saw 2 applications on the agenda. Did I miss something?
I did not put either in because I haven't had an opportunity. I just found out that the other guy that I wanted to hire is just available.
But the commission has had the opportunity to see this application.
Yeah, I can give them a copy of the application, absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, based on that, I think I would like to look at the application, because the second application that was in there was no work history whatsoever.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but, so what if you don't like his application?
So what?
That's what I mean. I want to hire officers. I don't want to keep waiting and waiting and waiting. I need to get these guys on now. We've been 3 months without 2 officers.
Oh, I agree with you.
So-
In fact, I didn't even know that we were down. I didn't get the word except from the council person just think that it's good, you know what, do you know what the work experience is on this?
Oh, yeah, and I selected him, he's all right, I've already gone through everything. I've
Can
already
you
had
kind of give
interviews
us
with
an
him.
idea of where he's worked, how long he worked?
Yes,
What
yes, I
his
have all that,
ability
I have
is?
all that information. He wasn't going to be hired because I didn't select him, but the person that I selected bailed on me for just a few hours.
He was in the top three.
Yeah, he was in the top four.
Yeah.
So he was a volunteer.
Just my 2 cents. I definitely think it would be more agreeable to have the application, and I understand your reservation on it. But I do think that our chief has done a great job of hiring the officers in place so far. I trust his judgment, and he's the one that ultimately has to oversee them. So as long as the background check works out, I'm agreeable to it. That's just my thought process on it. I would prefer to have it and pursue it. But I'm going to trust our department.
The hiring of first responders comes with a lot more requirements and certifications needing to get hired, other than somebody coming in off the street and wanting to get a job, you know, as a lawnmower person or something like that. It's a lot of process to go through.
And I know our chief to be thorough, so that's where I am with it, but I respect that.
And I'm sure the chief would be able to email us all a copy of the application if you want to see it. Right.
Well, I just like to know the work history and the stability and how long you're on the job and what you're
You can be emailing
I'll be honest, when it comes to work history and stuff like that, somebody who has a lengthy history of working in law enforcement isn't going to come to Lake Helen because we're the lowest paid police department in Volusia County. They're going to go somewhere else. So he has work history, but it's personal stuff, the reason why he left. There's nothing negative in his work history. So he's got experience in law enforcement, and I'm willing to give him a shot. I take responsibility for him.
And it's been an issue of the city, is that because we are a small city, and because certifications that the police officers or potential police officers have to go on, they have to be within a law enforcement agency or working in the field within a certain period of time, or if their certification expires. So a lot of them have come here and moved on to bigger things because we were the stop that they could get to. So we have really probably, I don't even know how many departments we have funneled our best in price. So will we get them, you know, based on the chief? I think we could, you know, do well. Even the person that was, the part-time was put in, she was put in, I think in May, an application for the 20 hours, because she was actually applying for reserve officers as opposed to a full-time, so just stepped up.
Yes, at the time she put that application and she knew we didn't have a full-time opening, so they usually put reserve.
She was right on time.
We do have and one other thing that we can do as a future reference if we want to enact it is most places will do a sponsorship program where they'll pay for somebody to go through a class so they get their certification, but then they sign a contract with the municipality that they have to work for so many years. Like in Deltona, they would pay, they offered me and I turned it down because I'm not that medically inclined to go that night. If you go and become a paramedic, they'll pay for you to go through the paramedic class, and it takes about 18 months to go through. And it's a strenuous class to go through. But then you gotta sign a contract that you will guarantee to work for them for 3 years after you get your certification.
And I
So that they
understand-
get their money's worth out.
I understand that, and Advent Hospital does that with their nurses, you know, that's like a 2-year contract. I personally believe more on this level of employment, of employer will, higher echelon typically gets contracts. At this level, I'd be very cautious on the contract. Because if you want to fire, you can't at will, you can fire them for any reason or no reason in the state of Florida. However, contract you can't do that.
Well, that's one thing, certifications, if they're contracted based on a certification and they're getting fired because of violating a certification, they also lose their state certification.
Okay.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Then, Commissioner report, Vice Jones? Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll just ask there, I mean, I did put Scott down over there in reference to moratorium. I mean, I know it's getting late, but
Oh.
you all discussed that Tuesday night, and if you want to start that process, then, I mean, that's going to require ordinances, public hearings, and what have you, so I guess we want to give Scott direction.
It ain't that late, we still got an hour. Don't worry about it.
Or you want Scott to tell you about the process.
Let Scott be Scott.
So, I guess you're saying if we were to look into a moratorium, what would be the process?
Well, a moratorium is a zoning ordinance, so we would have to go to the planning board for recommendation, and then it's come here for 2 readings. So that's the process. And then you need to, you gotta give a lot of thought to, what are you putting a moratorium on? There was a discussion about Edgewater, they adopted 2 moratoriums. One, as was described, is a moratorium on building permits that increase in, or work that increase the impervious surface in a very limited area of Edgewater. Probably, it looks like it's an old subdivision where this buildings where they had stormwater regulations, and they don't have any stormwater regulations. And that one, when you read the ordinances, is designed so that the city can complete their master stormwater study and also go in and start doing, cleaning out ditches, you know, things to do work to improve stormwater from a city's perspective, not adopting new regulations per se, but going in and actually doing stormwater improvements. That one seems to be the purpose of that ordinance. And then the other one, as Caleb described pretty well, that on annexations, rezoning, comprehensive plan, that deal with larger type projects, possibly. But the question is, what do you want to put a moratorium on? And then you're always going to have to address vested rights. People who are in the process to go through for approval, they need to be able to go through, finish up going through that approval process. And there's, Edgewater's ordinance does provide for that. It outlines what is not subject to the moratorium, and it also just provides a general request to be exempt from it. Everybody can request to be exempt from it, and would be subject to it based on certain criteria. And so, but the key thing is, what are you looking to put a stop to? You have quite a bit of discretion. I've done a little bit of research on it, but it has to be a rational basis for it. Typically, they're for a short period of time, 1 year. And the idea is that you are pausing development so that you can put something in place, and then this development will, the development you pause will then, or unpause, when the moratorium ends, will then comply with the new regulations. Or, like in the building permit with Edgewater, I think the idea is they don't want any more impervious surface put in that area until they improve the city's stormwater. They're going to go in there and retrofit, repair, and depending on what their master study shows, they want to go in and improve the city's drainage system, not adopt new regulations. for that part. You're saying we want to improve the city's regulations before we permit any additional impervious surface in this limited area. But so the question really would be, what are you looking to put a moratorium on?
Well, I was looking at the stormwater master plan that was presented and everything, looking at the maps that are in there showing what they evaluated as the flood-prone areas. There's a lot of residential lots that are inside the potential flood areas, including North High Street, John Street, Virginia, Corvette, Michigan, Tangerine, I mean, you just name it, there's quite a few areas that have buildable lots that we need to reevaluate those areas for stormwater controls and whatever we need to do to eliminate the possibility of us having houses that are built in flood areas that are going to get damaged from flooding. That's what I'm looking for a building moratorium on in those low-lying areas that are shown on our current maps.
Have y'all had any information given to you, like some discussion of what the current regulations are, stormwater regulations, by our engineer? Because I think,
Not from an engineer, I read the state requirements and everything
well,
that they have.
for instance, you know, I've been told by engineers, I'm not an engineer, but I've been told by engineers that one of the requirements that St. John's has, which I think is a very good requirement and probably should address any concerns about future development causing flooding, is that when you go and develop a site, you have to prove to St. John's that post-development, there will be no more discharge of stormwater from that property than existed before development. So if you have a vacant lot,
That doesn't work in Lake Ellen.
well, no, this is the St. John's rule.
No, we've got so many residents that were built that are flooding out of
Well,
there.
that's a different issue. That's a totally different issue. So I think before we were to adopt regulations, it would be good to understand what are the current regulations in place now. You know, you may have a low-lying area where property is, well, there's a minimum floor elevation they got to bring that to build. That's a state law requirement. So they're going to have to bring in a whole bunch of fill to raise that elevation up.
But then they gotta get a permit to impede a low-lying water charge
Those are all
area.
questions for and then they wouldn't be able to build. I mean, these are all questions for the engineer to say, what is it that people have to do to build? And then what could we realistically improve on? Because I think a lot of the problem, not just in Lake Ellen, but in other areas, is you have property that was developed long before there was ever stormwater regulations. So there's really no stormwater on these properties. And the situation may very well be that the stormwater from these old developed properties are running off to other properties. And now these other properties get built, and they build to our current regulations, and people are saying, hey, they're discharging their water onto our property. You know, the old property owners saying, hey, they're discharging onto our property now that they built. Well, really what they're doing is, they're just not allowing you to discharge on their property. And now you're having to retain, now the water that you once discharged off is staying on your property. You may have some of that situation. And the other regulations, because these are U.S. Supreme Court decisions, when you start talking about exactions, whether it's financial or contribution to land, when you try to put an exaction on new development to pay for its impact, to whatever, it could be traffic, could be stormwater, it's got to be proportionate. It's got to be proportionate to the impact that's being caused. So by that development, so it's not. I'm almost probably say it's not legal to, but I would say it's very hard to, probably not legal to, tell new development, you've got to solve our old existing problems. If you want to build here, not only do you got to deal with your stormwater, you've got to solve our stormwater problem as a city. That would probably be an unlawful regulation, because it would be an unlawful exactly, because it's not proportionate to their impact. So, it's tough to answer. These are engineering questions. Well, what do we need to do, what do y'all need to do as a city to address the stormwater issue? Given the fact that we all know that this was unprecedented amount of rain. I mean, it really was. And I think you need to have an understanding of what are St. John River Water Management District's current rules for someone to come in and regulate, to comply with for stormwater. And we do have the authority to adopt more stringent rules. So you got to know what those rules are and understand how they work to see where can we improve realistically and reasonably improve those rules to address our situation. So a good summary from an engineer, and I'm not an engineer, but a good summary from an engineer saying these are the rules that St. John's require any new development. And there may be certain development that's small, if it's a single lot, that maybe they're exempt from a lot of St. John rules. And maybe you want to say, we don't want that exempt. You have a single lot, you still got to comply with St. John rules. That's something we could adopt and impose. But until, I think if I was in your shoes, I would want to know what are the current rules so I can see where we can improve those rules to address our concerns.
Okay, so what I'm hearing, and I could be mistaken, or oversimplifying, we need a suggestion of what we're trying to accomplish, correct?
You need to come up first with, what are we trying to accomplish? Where's our concern? And then if you want to do a moratorium, what do we need to stop that would then be subject to what we're trying to address?
Okay.
And then the moratorium will start.
So my suggestion is that we pause for large residential and all commercial. Also, any areas already identified by, sorry, I have a note here that I can't. St. John's and the Woodward and Curry in our stormwater master plan as being prone to flooding within a certain radius. No impervious surface increase in those areas, with the intent that all new development, residential and commercial, get to the 125-year flood standard.
What is it?
Well, I know right now you have to hold, what is it, up to, is it 11 inches for 24 hours?
I think for residential, it's only 80% of a standard rainstorm, which is about 1 inch.
It's what? I think that I just read somewhere that it's 4.5 inches over 24 hours.
I think it's higher than that. Maybe it changes the type of.
Those are designation of flood areas on how much defines a flooding area.
That would be my suggestion to the board to further give us direction. But I don't know how amenable you all are to that suggestion.
So let's go back, you said the large, do you want to stop rezonings? Like new rezonings coming in for large, what is a large residential subdivision? Are you talking about?
It's not single family.
Well, you have, that's a single family residential subdivision is a large subdivision. So you want so you could be subdivided like townhouses or condos, or it could be apartments under one ownership. So you are looking for something, you're just applying.
I mean, the verbiage definitely, but I mean,
yes.
not just one singular house.
Okay, but what,
Anything outside of that.
okay, 2 houses? Like if you're gonna do like 4, say a 10-house subdivision, or we had the one, we have like 4 or 5 houses over on,
Faith Road.
I don't know, I can't.
Faith Road is right.
What's that?
Faith Road.
Yeah.
Faith Road was 11 lots, or 10 lots.
10 lots, okay, if you have 10 lots, where are we gonna stop?
2 or more.
2 or more? Like if you're like 2?
Yes, and then any areas identified by Woodward and Curry, our current stormwater master plan, or the existing floodplain as prone to flooding within a certain radius. No increases of impervious surface within that room with the intent of getting
So
to
this-
the 100.
So if a place was vacant, you're saying no development? If the vacant lot has no impervious surface, and you say we can't increase impervious surface, you're saying no development, then, right?
Essentially.
Now, is
This
that,
is where,
is this like a moratorium you want, or is this the regulation you're looking for? I hope you say moratorium, because if it's a regulation, the city just bought the land.
no, this is specifically in reference to the building moratorium that was proposed at the last meeting.
Okay.
Or, well, not proposed, just kind of talked about. And
So
I
areas
would
that are
like
flood
more direction from our board, who are more expert in this area, to come back to us with their suggestion off of this.
Can I read you a couple of things? One of them is the state law was passed and went into effect June 28, 2024, which says that any stormwater control systems permits cannot drain into an existing body of water, like directly into a lake or a river or anything like that. They have to go into. So that's why we push for the growth thing to have their stormwater go into a retention pond, let it percolate into the lake. And then on the other side, the city of Lake Hill will begin requiring the following effective March 14, 2022. Engineer stormwater drainage plan. All new residential construction and additions on infill lots and/or where there are existing homes and structures on adjacent properties will be required to include an engineered stormwater drainage plan with the permit application submittal. The drainage plan must indicate how stormwater will be controlled, conveyed, and show that stormwater runoff will not impact any adjacent properties. This requirement is in addition to the affidavit of drainage control. Now, is that being enforced in Lake Helen?
So what you just read is actually in our code?
It says it since 2022, and I mean, listen who the ones were. Cameron Lane, Jim Connell, Heather Rutledge, Roger Eckert, Rick Bass.
You read what it's okay.
We are requiring drainage engineering on all lots. The drainage engineering comes in, it's taken in, it's sent over to pond, it's reviewed. If changes are needed, it's sent back to the client, they make the changes, it's sent back. Once it's approved by pond, the permit's released.
How do so many of the houses then get away with allowing their stormwater runoff to go straight into the street rather than going into a, what do you call them? Sway or some swale or something like that?
So you'll have to specify which lot you're talking about. Because over time, I mean, you have to remember that over time, these swales are not gonna continue to be there.
Water and high,
Water and high.
the northwest corner.
I'm sorry, I'm not. Do you know whose lot it is?
Or maybe it's not water, maybe it's the next one up. What's that? Park? Washington. Washington and I.
Is that in the woods?
Yes.
So the woods has their own drainage engineering. There's a.
They're on the city side of the slope, so all our water drains on the city streets and then goes down and floods the areas on the north high.
Okay, when was that was built?
Within the past 5 years, I'm not exactly sure.
You would have to give me.
I know that I was in office when there was the issue of it being built, and the rains would come and wash all the sand and everything into the road. So we told them they needed to put up barriers to keep the sand in, and they did that, and I think it controlled 75% of the storm runoff from that time. When the house was finished, you go and look at it, it's sloped all the way to the road. There's nothing, no swale or nothing to control any of the runoff coming off the house.
I'd have to have the address to be able to pull the file and look at it. It could have been before my time. And it could have been before before we started requiring that, because that's something that I brought in when I started here, after speaking with the county. And that's how it got to the table, because you weren't requiring that before.
Is this more of a code issue, not really like?
Well, it deals with stormwater because it affects the
They
moratorium.
signed an affidavit, a drainage affidavit, saying that they won't put water on somebody else's property. So with the woods, the drainage engineering has already been approved by St. John. And all the lots have either an A, B, or C drainage pattern that they have to follow. Now, I don't have somebody that can go out after the work is done and confirm that the swales have been put in the way you're supposed to be. We don't have somebody in the city that goes and does that. The building officials or the inspectors will look at final grade. But if that property's been there, and that house has been there for 4 or 5 years, with mowing, activities, those swales break down. So, I mean, if you can give me more information, I can find out everything I can on this one, and why it does that.
I'd have to go back and look and see when it was permitted to be built.
Like, just find me that husband. But as of right now, we have required, and that's something that we've been pushing for a long time, to keep the drainage, to keep water on our property. So, and I understand with the flooding.
But that's where we need to go through and, I mean, that's a high up area, but it's causing a runoff problem in low lying areas. So we need to go and hold off allowing anybody to build anything in low lying areas until we can take and reevaluate our system and improve what we have to control the stormwater runoff.
Well, and that's, I mean, High Street's a perfect example of that. They sit down in the bottom of the basement there, and the water goes right to them. But that's also a buyer's due diligence to do their, to research the property that they're gonna be purchasing. How you guys set it up, that's up to you as far as you want it to go, but I mean, honestly, we've CO'd 5 houses this year.
The one on North Line is built up above the water, but the water level still comes into the house because of the way, because of them being in the bowl, even though they're on an island in the bowl.
Connor was the same way. When we went to his property, his whole backyard is full. All the water's gonna go to the lowest point. I don't know what it needs to be in this for this, but
Somebody talking about our older houses, right?
exactly. Some of these houses sit
It's hard to
below down
do.
the road.
Yeah.
You know, another issue that we're seeing now is, I know you guys were talking about these new hybrid septic tanks. Do you know that they're requiring the houses to sit 24 inches above the ground of the road? Our minimum is 12. And if you go and look at the houses going up on the corner of Pleasant and, what's that, Park, right there by us?
Didn't we adopt regulations, I think it was for Pasco, who didn't want the houses higher than a certain amount? The state law says you have to have a minimum floor elevation.
Minimum distance above, but there's no maximum.
There's no maximum.
No maximum.
Ours was set a maximum of
And we set a maximum, but if people want to protect against flooding, that may work contrary to that.
Well, and somebody who's buying a low-lying area, they would be required to raise their property up. They would be in a flood zone X or flood zone A. A is your area that you have to either raise your elevation.
They would have to get an ERP permit to be able to change the land.
They would have to go through St. John's.
Do they have to raise it up when they buy it, or if they have major more than 50% of the repairs? Are they not grandfathered in?
This is new construction.
Oh, you're talking about new construction?
Yeah, anybody buying, and we do have low-lying areas, because if you go up on, the Pearl, and you go north, that's all low-lying areas through there. You go on west on Ohio, you have low-lying areas through there. For that, you have low-lying areas.
Somebody with an existing home that was built decades ago, their grandfather did, unless they do a certain amount of repair work.
Yeah, and it'd be very difficult to raise that property
Property,
up. They would be better off to go in and create swales to try, direct the drainage. Yeah.
Does St. John's, they have individual lots, even though like somebody's gonna build on an individual lot, they don't regulate that at all? But that's where our regulations come in, and we require stormwater plans. We do know.
The drainage affidavit is what's in the home. And that's a legal document that's notarized, saying that they will put water on the property. Because they are required to retain their water. Let's face it, you cannot retain all your water on your property. And sometimes, like in the woods, they have stormwater drainage. So their water will go to the road and flow out. And if you, I have it, if you want to look at it, I have this, St. John's Water Management. I have their permitted package. And then whenever a new house is built in the woods, they get a copy showing their lot highlighted and what their drainage pattern is. And
My
then-
only concern with the woods is one of the retention ponds on Summit in Pennsylvania has an overflow that drains into a culvert that goes through the woods, so that's not a problem. The other one is a large retention pond on High Street in Washington. Its overflow seems to go into somebody's backyard on Ohio, flows through their property when it gets super large storms like what we had.
Right, and we have to remember that we were 13 inches above normal from Ian. And then when Helene came in, it put another 6 inches on top of us. And then Milton came and sat over us and dropped another 16
And
inches.
we had a
We
large
had more-
saturation along with all the rainstorms in between that wouldn't allow the percolation of the groundwater to go down because there was so much water.
And our lakes don't go anywhere.
Well, folks, we're getting so far off the topic of what we were proposing.
Not really, I mean, it's all generally related to it.
Yeah, at the point of the meeting at this hour, we were reaching 11 o'clock afterwards. So, business?
At a minimum, could we do this? I think what would be helpful is if everybody would email me their thoughts, or email Jim their thoughts on stormwater, what they would like to look at in terms of the moratorium. And I think it would be very advisable to have our engineer, city's engineer, opine on what would be beneficial, what may not be as beneficial as we think. And if you want, we can accumulate the information you give us and take it to the planning board. You know, we'll bring it back to you first and then take it to the planning board. But obviously, y'all want to, it sounds like y'all want to get something started, and I think the public would like for us to get something started. So I think it would be good to start by sharing the information with staff. We can put together the things that we think that would, you know, we're working with our engineer, that would be productive, both from the standpoint of saying, okay, this is an area where we think we need to make some changes to improve. Then that tells us that we need to adopt a moratorium. So we stop development on the areas where we're going to improve. So that they can't build until we make those improvements, and they have to comply with our rules. That's kind of how the moratorium, they work hand in hand. The moratorium just says, pause development while we address this issue. And then once we address that issue, the moratorium is lifted, and they can go forward, and then they comply with the new rules. That's how they, so they do work hand in hand together. So it's just a suggestion.
Sounds like a good one.
Okay.
Duly noted.
Because I know we've got some ideas here, and based on our discussions, it would be hard for me to write a moratorium ordinance. Just based on our discussions here today, we've got to go into more details. So I think if everybody writes their suggestions, send it to staff, then we get engineers input, staff's input, and we can put together a document, and either we can bring it back to you or go to the planning board. You know, I can work with Jim on seeing what we think is the best way to deal with that, and maybe individually discuss with y'all, Jim can talk to y'all, but that's what I would suggest we do.
Very well. Can we get to the zone reports now?
You ready for me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you. I just wanted to tell everyone about Arbor Day. It is happening Saturday, January 18th from 8 to 10 a.m. CAC formerly known as the Gem Station, 493 South State Street behind our police station. We are giving away Pomegranate Wonderful, Dwarf Cavendish, Fig, Celeste, and Elderberry, and then provided by the West Volusia Audubon Friends of the Lionia Environmental Center. They are graciously giving away Rusty Lionia, Flatwoods Plum, Sweet Acacia, hopefully I didn't butcher that, Winged Elm, Green Ash, and Southern Red Cedar. This year has been a new turn of events. Touched on it earlier in the meeting a little bit, but the Gem Station has dissolved and has gifted some funds toward the city for larger gallon trees, which prompted another donation from Jeff and Debbie Ritchie, so that we could purchase 4 100-gallon trees to be planted in Blake Park this year and provide shade to the folks that are going there. Eventually, I'd like to see us continue. The goal is that we will plant in Royal and Melissa as well, but of course Royal's underwater currently, and Melissa has upcoming activity construction that will be happening, so we don't want to be in the way of that. I want to thank our sponsors and our volunteers: Gem Station, Troy Building Company, Beery Roofing, Lake Helen Lake Committee, the Helen Garden Club, Collinsville Pools, Jeff and Debbie Ritchie, White House Contracting, Waste Pro, Duke Energy, Tree Work Now, West Volusia Audubon, and Friends of Lionia Environmental Center for their incredible generosity this year. We are above $5,000, which our goal of fundraising was only $3,000. So it is a tremendous success, and I'm very much surprised and elated at how this program is growing and is benefiting the ecology of our city for years to come. Every plant and tree that we are giving away is native, so it will benefit us tremendously. With that, I'm finished. Thank you.
Go to.
In my years of working as a commissioner for the city of Lake Helen, representing the city, I have tried my best to present what I felt was the most beneficial for the city. And I've always worked that way. I was trained on a thing that most people work inside a certain confined area. I believe, and they call that the box. Everybody likes to confine themselves in the box because it's a safe zone. I like working outside the box. And where somebody will say what you're going to do is going to be controversial and create problems, I look at it as a way of opening up dialogue that can bring change and improvements to the city. Sorry if I'm that way. I apologize for being that way, but I'm not changing. I'm still going to continue trying to do that. So, along with that, reading through the emails today, I've seen an email from Volusia County that HUD is giving Volusia County $133 million plus to handle housing and infrastructure issues dealing with Milton. And I would like for Jim to get with Kearns and them and find out that there's a possibility of us being able to access any of that money and possibly get some of it from the county when the county starts working with it and opening it up so that it can resolve some of our issues from the Milton flooding and stuff. Besides that, I'm going to be here for a while, and I'm going to stay living in this town. I'm going to continue supporting this town, and I look forward to seeing improvements done that's going to benefit everybody in town.
Yes.
I agree with you, Commissioner. Working inside the box is very simple. Oh, Vice Mayor, that's right. You got rebooted. in tonight. Working inside the box is a safe zone, but you can never go anywhere except just within the confines of that box. So you'll never gain any knowledge or move forward. So I agree with you completely. Everybody pretty much knows that I'm straightforward and ask a lot of questions, and I do that because I like to learn. That's probably the main reason. Not that I just want to be heard. I need people to explain things to me. Zone 3, there's been so much going on that I could get into, but I will be probably sending an email to staff regarding an incident that occurred in the villas. And it concerned me. So just, that's the point that I say he's gone. I was going to let him know. I'd like to know, is it normal practices to write or rewrite contracts or ordinances or comp plans or just anything without commissioners being made aware of it until it's in their packet, and then we can learn of something new that's coming up? And that seems to be the practice since I've been in the office, which brings me to the next subject. Because this happens to me all the time, and not knowing what the path the city has always been on, and learning what the path is. And let's talk about stormwater as an example. I had our stormwater master plan. I had the whole 789 pages of it. But I needed to know more. I knew what path that had been set for us, but I also needed to know what path should we be looking at to move forward, which might be outside that box that we're in the stormwater plan. So I started requesting records, and I don't even think that I put public records request, I just asked for records. And apparently I got to a point where there might have been some misunderstanding on my records request. It had to do with billing, because I actually wanted to look at 4 projects that was supposed to have been worked on by the engineering. And then, of course, as you go through the process of looking at things, you discover all of a sudden there's discrepancies in dollars, which happened to be $666,000, or $6,066. But I had a different number. The discrepancy was $4,000. So $2,000 to me means a lot. So I then wasn't trying to be nosy or stating that the city doesn't pay their bills, because obviously we pay lots of money every month. The bills that were shown that had been paid. So then I received a request for, well, I'm going to say it was a request that I pay for public records, because I guess I must have exceeded my limit. Now, I can probably sit here and say that I don't believe anybody sitting at this table as a commissioner has paid the public request. And I know there's a lot of public requests that have gone out because our CA shares them with us. My purpose was business, not trying to tear anybody down, not trying to go after anybody. Mine was strictly business. Let's get on with the stormwater plan. Let's see where we've been, where can we go. billing issues. And I was told I was gonna have to pay $346. Well, that will never happen, because I don't get paid the $259 every 2 weeks. So, for me as a commissioner, to try to help citizens and bring forth good, solid information, I think that we as a commission should decide, and I know the feelings of our attorney, you know, because I've discussed this with him, that public officials should not get anything more than the citizen. However, I'm putting in very long days, and sometimes nights with research. There's nothing that goes in these packets that I don't read. Every line and verse, every line of verse. It's a lot that they can, plus talking to citizens, which I'll bring that into what's been going on with me in the last 2 months. So I really would like support from my colleagues and the commissioners to at least come to some agreement that as we pull records, that we're pulling them for business purposes to be presented. And there's all different types of ideas on what is business. But I just really think that it's unfair and unheard of to have to pay for public records to try to help my citizens and my constituents out. I can afford the $346, and I don't think the $500 I get a month to do this job. I make a lot more money than that. I'm taking time away from my husband, and I'm doing this simply to help the citizens. And I think that we're all sitting at the table here to do the same. And I don't think that it's fair that we should have to pay for paper or information or an email, whatever, to help them out or to try to find a new way, a better way to make the city great. So I'm asking you tonight, I don't know if this will be an action item, I don't know if we're going to have to vote, or just an agreement that I do know there's rules in the city that everybody must pay. I learned that very quickly last week. It's a rule I think should be changed. I think it's unfair, and it's especially unfair if one commissioner is told that you need to pay, but all other commissioners don't have to. So, as I go on, if you guys would think about that for a little while, we can circle back around and you can tell me what you think, and that would be fine. I want to talk about Lake Pearl. I got a letter today. I don't know why I received this so late, but I got a letter today that was written by one of our citizens. And yes, it went to commissioners. But the question was there any possibility of dredging Lake Pearl? So, dredging, I guess, would also mean maybe making it a little deeper, so the waters from Lake Cloud could be moved over into Lake Pearl. I don't know the answer to that. It seems to me that most of the residents around there seems to own a portion of that of those lakes, so they wouldn't be moving or compromising for us to, think about that too. No answers tonight, but these citizens are spending, in fact, one of the citizens has been compromised so much it's costing her $12,000 to have to move a septic tank. FEMA's not paying, FEMA gave her $2,000. And this does not fall under the Transform 386 because it has to be the structure of the house. Now, if her house had been damaged, then they would look at the septic tank drain fill as being an extension of the house. So our laws are really kind of wacky now, in my opinion. So if we can think about if there's any way that we can do that, and I appreciate the fact that staff did take care of laying the asphalt. Thank you, Ricky, for that too, for Mr. Artucci and his family. I was so concerned about that family with 4 little toddlers and they could not even get propane gas delivered. You know, I look for Amazon every day. I would lose my mind if I couldn't have Amazon come. So I appreciate that, and so I'm now coming and asking for another favor if at all possible, and how much it would cost. The one thing I did on the 7th, along with Nancy and Kelly and Roger was there. We attended the 2025 delegation. There were over 100 speakers. It was amazing. The state representatives to be out there. And I have to say, I was very impressed with our state representatives this year. But with over 100 speakers, each one of them, they're all for different reasons, but in the beginning, the majority was the cities, and there were many, many cities going up, and they had their hand out, and they were telling the senators what they needed and what they wanted. And I'm talking millions of dollars that they requested. But with every city manager, every mayor, every person who went up with their hand out, each one of them said, and by the way, we have a 50% match. So that concerns me because Jim has talked before about if we get a grant, we got to have a 50% match. We don't have a 50% match. We don't have the money. I wonder how we can get out of that situation. And the only way I see it is by cutting costs and looking for it. I hate to say, let's keep taking out of ARPA. But taking out of ARPA, we haven't put any back in to ARPA, at least not for the 2 years that I've been attending these meetings. So basically, that's it, but it was an amazing meeting. It was a long meeting. It was very informative, and I have to say those senators, you could see the pain. Actually sending people up to talk to their staff right after they spoke. People were in tears, and it was very good. It was very informative. Also, our speaker tonight, she spoke there, and on her own, she literally asked our senators to provide monies to Lake Calvin. Number 1, put us number 1 on the list. And so that's why I wanted her to come tonight, along with all the other engineers who are here, to speak about what's going on in the lawsuits and how we might even could join in those lawsuits once we get the data. That's the reason I asked for data on testing. Once we have the data to see what we've got, we might even join in. And we don't have to pay the attorney. And I don't know what kind of attorney we would call that.
Who would we sue? Who is it we're suing?
Deltona, I think, is suing some water management company that hasn't provided the results on this PFAS. And so, she mentioned the name of the attorney. I don't think you.
She didn't say anything about like Helen's doing anything, so.
No, she didn't.
Maybe we got our results, I don't know.
Well, we don't have the data yet. I requested that.
There's one set that we never got because there was miscommunication, so.
Yeah, so, once we get the data, we do know it's published. The University of Florida actually did everything and included what gone into this. So, I mean, there's ways that we can work outside of the box. I think it may not be traditional, historically done this way, but I'd like for you to think about it. Maybe I should go back and say, has anybody thought about a records request?
Part of it is for the commission to get their individual exchange.
Oh, I thought there might be an action or portion like when Todd Preston spoke.
I'd have to look at the requirements that we have on public workers requests, other than the fees that are allowed to be charged by the state this year.
Wasn't an abundance? That's the only thing I can think, is if it's an abundance of records that's gonna take time, then that's typically the only time, that Lake Helen's pretty lenient on not charging, but, I mean, I don't know what the circumstances were, so.
Yeah, mine was. I think it was just a misunderstanding. I was looking for the stormwater management plan, which was 780.
Well, maybe that's it, and maybe it
That's not
was.
what I needed.
Right.
It was just 4 reports per bill. So I just think it was a misunderstanding.
I can probably help a little bit, is that, I have talked to Lynn, and this is something that I've discussed before, with, prior commissioners and administrators, is that, some of it has to do with how the request is made. You could ask the administrator, hey, can you answer this question for me? Can you give me, an answer to this? I had a constituent ask me this, how would I answer this? Or, hey, this type of information might be helpful to the whole commission. Can you share this with the, can we have this in the agenda? But when you go and you say, I'm making a public records request under Florida law, now you've taken yourself out of just working with the administrator to get answers, and you're saying, okay, I want to now follow Florida law. Well, Florida law doesn't exempt out public officials.
Right.
Our policy does not exempt out officials, now, our elected officials. Y'all could adopt a policy. We don't have to charge anybody. You could adopt a policy that said, nobody citywide is charged, for public records, or you could say elected officials don't get charged for their requests. But that's a policy you all need to say. The policy we have right now is we just follow what state law says on the charges. So that's a decision y'all can make. But that was been my guidance going all the way back to probably Becky, maybe even Jason.
Right.
Is if a commissioner, they can come in and ask questions, and it deals a lot with the relationship between the elected official and the administrator, and how the dialogue back and forth. But I've never seen a city since where the elected official sends so many requests for public records as this city. Now, maybe I don't get involved in it in other cities I represent, but I've never seen that before.
Do you get copies of all of those requests? Like, do they get sent to you? Because that's another problem, is people, including you, on emails and stuff that you have to read, we have to pay for that.
Some of them I will be copying on, but I don't think I'm copying on all of them, because I will end up getting in an email chain later.
Yeah, I know, I don't.
And all of a sudden I see something that was early on. So, but that's the basis of my advice. Y'all can clearly change the policy, that's up to y'all. And I've told Lynn, I said, I don't think commissioners should be treated differently than the public. If you're making a formal public records request. The best way to do it is say, Jim, I have a question, can you answer this for me? And then he'll get an answer for you. Because that's not a public record. When you ask him for a question, I've instructed everybody in the city, if somebody sends a question in the way of a public records request, we don't answer. We don't answer.
Right.
Public records request is like, here's the
I
document.
believe that,
That way
right.
we don't create documents, we don't answer questions. So it's clearly not a public records request if you ask a question, say, hey, I have a question about this, can you explain it to me and maybe give me the backup supporting documentation that would help me understand what you're saying. That's really not a public records request, that's just getting information from the administrator. It's just when you formally send an email that says, I am hereby, I'm requesting pursuant to Florida law, these records or something like that, triggers us into something different. And so then we just follow Florida law and our policies, which y'all, like I said, y'all have the discretion to change if you want to.
Well, I don't even think I could have public request.
Well, the way you worded it, it comes across, I'm hereby requesting these documents, and it just comes across as a formal public records request. The public doesn't have to say, I'm making this request pursuant to Florida law. Actually, to make a public records request, you don't have to put anything in writing, to be honest with you. You can make a verbal public records request. But it's just when it makes it, the request is more formal, it kind of triggers now this public records rule, and we just put it into that category. But it's up to y'all, however y'all want to handle it.
Well, I would like for it to be fair across the board.
I 100% agree with that. Everybody should be treated the same. I agree.
So then that means, if I have to go in and look at the records, I'll do that,
You don't need charged copy. And that's the same for the public.
But I just find
Not
it,
true, I was charged to look at records as a commissioner
Right, you should.
during.
Unless it was excessive amount of time to collect it. So they weren't charging you a per page copy. Now, they may have charged you time to go to gather, yes, they could charge you for that.
During budget,
They can still do it.
well, there's been no intent on my part to pull public records to see what somebody's doing out in the field or anything like that. Mine has all been about business and buildings and things like, how does it impact us as a city?
And I will tell you that some elected officials have made requests that was not their intent in the past. Not you, I'm talking about you. Historically,
I don't think
requests have been made
personal.
really more to get information to attack a particular employee or something like that. So you can't really say, we can't judge, say, well, what's your intent? Okay, your intent, so we'll give it to you, but oh, your intent's a little different. That's hard to judge people's intent. So it's just, if you want the elected officials to be able to have access to records without paying for them, that's fine. Just we'll amend the policy to say that. That's within your discretion.
Well, if it goes the way that we all have to pay, then is there a law that should be kept where, who requested the records or records were
That's public
requested?
records, they keep that.
So there's a law in the amount of money that
Well,
was spent.
whatever the public records law is, we should follow it. Now, the best way to deal with it is, I think, is just ask questions and get responses back. Because in my mind, if you get a response back from staff that says, here's an answer to your question, and then you're saying, now I'm requesting all the documents, I don't believe staff. I want to come in and confirm what staff says. Now you got your answer, you don't like it, now you're going to say, I want these documents. I'm not talking about you,
No,
I'm just saying in general.
Because I know.
Now you're saying, the elected official saying, I don't trust staff, now I'm going to go back and do my own investigation. You're really acting like a citizen, to be perfectly honest. At that point, because nobody here has a job description. If everybody was in charge of a particular department, that would be different. But no one's, or as I indicated, the one exception is that if the commission assigns to one of you to look into an issue, then you should have access to it, because it's been delegated to you by the commission to go do something. But absent that, you work, collectively as a body to set the policy. If you go out and you start investigating what staff is doing, that's, kind of like what a citizen does. That's how I kind of look at it. And, but y'all can change the policy.
And that one question that gets asked over email, or if you're doing it in person, it's probably easier, because then you get your answer, that leads to another question. Then you get that answer, and it just goes on until you have a full day of back and forth emails. So that's distracting and time consuming for staff also. So it's a vicious cycle.
Almost everything I get is sent via email through the system, so it's just basically looking it up and pushing it out.
No, I'm saying that if you were to ask a question, that could, and then he just emails you the answer, then that could lead to, there's another question, and it just could go back and forth. That's what I'm saying, so it could just go on and on and on.
Trying to,
So,
anyway, that's it for some
Zone 4 is putting her little happy ass in that box y'all been talking about. Got nothing. I'm tired.
Well, the mayor,
Your voice sounds better though.
Oh, thanks. I've been listening.
we didn't have a meeting in December. I saw something you probably all got it, the hometown news, and speak about a neighboring city, Deltona. It's kind of a, I guess since this discussion is speaking about as a body, we are a body, we are a commission, and we operate as a group. Failing to do that creates problems for the citizens that we're supposed to be representing. I'm just going to read this because I'm going to get out of here. New commissioners hope to restore decorum. Deltona has a new group of city commissioners, and their buzzword seems to be professional. The commission has experienced significant turnovers, as 4 of the 7 seats have changed hands since the start of the new year. On November 11th, the commission swore in 3 new commissioners, plus David Herrick, who won the election this month after originally being appointed as a replacement in February. Residents voted for change, and the new commission think that they know why. Residents want less squabbling, more action, and want the commission to conduct itself in a professional manner. I think the residents saw that the chaos created by previous commissions wasn't functional. I think that was the driving force for the change, said Mr. Herrick. The chaos among some commissioners, not all included foul language, inappropriate remarks, petty bickering, palatable tension, and even outright hostility. Residents also flashed anger toward commissioners and city staff during meetings, and they showed their displeasure in polls in November the 5th. Dory Howrington defeated incumbent Dana McCool for the District 4 seat. And while Nick Lutie edged incumbent Jody Lee, by only 146 votes in the District 6 seat. In District 1, Mr. Harris defeated Randy White, part of a vocal core of residents who regularly shared their opinions at commission meetings. She said that she ran for office because she wanted a better representation for the citizens. Political newcomer Emila Santiago previously won the District 2 seat in August primary, defeated faces. The young professionals, as they're called. He didn't mince words in describing his opponent, Mr. Starsick, as well as Ms. McCool, saying that they showed clownish behavior and contributed to the dysfunction of the commission. Their final unprofessional act, he said, was not even bothered to show up at the swearing-in ceremony of their successor. During this year's campaign, Mr. Louis and Mr. Starnick alleging violations of state law over campaign checks. Mr. Louis' government communication is a communication consultant, and he started attending commission meetings back in 1983. The engagement, it leaves you scarred. That's the best way to describe it, he said. I'm hopeful that we're going to start to change some of that now with this election. The Santiago retired city employee and owner of a travel agency also recognized residents' desire for better leadership. She said watching some commissioners doing meetings was an embarrassment as they discussed trivial matters such as comments on Facebook. I think residents were tired to see how unprofessional some of the commissioners were, said Santiago. They're just tired of seeing infighting, unprofessionalism, name-calling, and was giving the city bad names. Let's focus on the things that we need to focus on. The city getting things done, not worrying about what people say on Facebook. I believe the residents voted for so many new commissioners because they're tired of inept representation, childish behavior, obscene gestures, cussing at residents. They wanted effective professional leadership. I'm going to stop right there.
Did you insert my name in all of that?
I did not
Because it sure
write
sounds
this,
a lot
I
like
just
me.
read this, and I guess the point that there was today, as a commission, I've been involved in the commission in the city for about 16 years. I've seen good, and I've seen bad, I've seen ugly. What makes a good commission is a cohesive group of people who are not necessarily competing against one another. The city as a whole is benefited when we work as a group, not an independent person. It's almost like some people can act like they're running for the next office or the next year instead of dealing with this year. The problems that we're dealing with today are situations that previous commissioners either made and maybe made a bad decision or a good decision. But now when it comes to us, we now have to take everything that's happened before and we have to begin to make policy procedures that will help the city in the future. Because all of us, I know for myself, I'm not going to be sitting here for another X number of years. I want to be able to move on. I've done this work. And the people that come behind us, they're going to look at us as either a role model or I ain't going to be like that. So we need to come together for the purposes of doing city business. It's as simple as that. I mean, we might learn more from each other as opposed to fighting each other. There's a lot you can learn. There's a lot that we can't do because of sunshine.
That's right.
So because of that, there's a decorum that we have when we have this space. This is the only time that we can have these conversations out in the open. You can learn more by listening, learn more by asking questions. When we get out of here, we're under the law. We are not supposed to be talking about anything that we can vote on, anything that would create a problem for us down the road or for the city. And for sure, we want to make sure that we do what we need to do. And I'm going to stop talking right now. Just as since we have a captive audience, I want to wish everybody again a happy new year. Thank you very much. And that's all, folks.
Don't be like me.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something.
I heard that. That happened.
You got the email on the Legislative City Mayor's Conference in the Northern Conference?
And somebody else. I gotta be my emails up with yesterday.
If the mayor can't make it, so I'm trying to figure out, I guess, if you can't make it, you gotta let Jim know, so you can say, hey, Vernon says he's not gonna make it to this call, can you fill in for it? Because they don't want to